It is night 3 of the Republican National Convention, and tonight's theme, Land of the Heroes, put the focus on military and law enforcement.
Vice President Mike Pence was one of the key speakers. Jason Bristow has your highlights.
Texans saw a familiar face Wednesday night at the RNC, delivering a familiar message.
Here's the truth about America. We are a country of heroes.
Representative Dan Crenshaw, a rising star within the party, on the USS Texas, praising the president's support of the military in his 3-minute and 40-second speech. Crenshaw also explaining what heroism means to him.
Heroism is rebuilding our communities, not destroying them. Heroism is renewing faith in the symbols that unite us, not tearing them down.
Land of Heroes was Wednesday night's theme, recognizing the 100-year anniversary of the 19th Amendment, granting women the right to vote, narrated by the president's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump.
Lives of women forever.
Also speaking, Sister Dee Dee Byrne from the Little Workers of the Sacred Hearts.
Donald Trump is the most pro-life president that this nation has ever had.
Michael McHale, the leader of the National Association of Police Organizations, offering his endorsement. But the headliner, Vice President Mike Pence, outlining why he and the president have earned 4 more years.
President Trump is a doer, and few presidents have brought more independence, energy, or determination to that office.
As for the Biden campaign, earlier Wednesday, it called the RNC, quote, an alternative reality for not focusing enough on the coronavirus pandemic, according to CBS News.